We're live? What's going? Are we doing this again, Kevin?
We're doing it again. I just sneezed.
Professional podcasting at its best here, or as YouTube live channel go. Yeah, we are doing yet another spontaneous live culture clash. We might just pop up whenever you're not expecting. Sometimes they might be 2 minutes. Sometimes they might be 2 hours. I mean, probably more in the middle, though. I'm thinking, Kevin.
It's kind of fun, I mean, we could schedule them if we want to, but I think it's fun to just go ahead and do it. And we got something we need to talk about. A few things actually, but something really big. So yeah.
Now, Kevin, I thought we weren't going to talk about my use of the blue pills.
Let's not go there.
I was talking about the Matrix.
Oh, sure. Okay, yeah. Not the one.
I mean, look at our background. It's kind of Matrixy here and stuff like that.
No, we wanted to talk about Obi-Wan. It just ended, and we want to do a spoilerific breakdown of it. And
wait, Kevin.
So yeah.
Did you say spoilerific?
I did.
That's right. Yeah. There's your spoiler warning for this episode of Culture Clash. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things going on in fandom. There will be spoilers abound.
Obi-Wan specifically.
Well, no, wait, Kevin. You just saw something that.
Well, hold on, real quick. Before we change the subject of the spoiling the Obi-Wan and all that kind of stuff. Now, we are going to be doing a little reaction show for us here right now on the Fandom Podcast Network, Culture Clash Live, talking about Obi-Wan, this season finale. But we want to give a little shout out to our What a Piece of Junk boys, Scott, Nathan, and Derek. They're going to be doing kind of the deep dive reaction show. I believe they're going to record it on Sunday and then release it shortly afterwards. So they're going to give their thoughts on it as well. We want to give them a little plug and give them some love. So sorry, go ahead.
Wait a minute. There's a rumor going around you might be on that show.
I've heard that rumor. You know where I heard that rumor?
No, fill us in.
From me, because I asked to be on it.
Well, then I have something very important I need to ask you, Kevin.
Yes.
When you do get on the Drunken Gungan, make sure. I know they lent it out to that Terry for her to go to Star Wars Celebration. Just make sure they get
right. Lent it out to who?
Their friend Terry. From if you follow the group.
Oh, right. Yeah. Of course.
Episode talking about her celebration experience. Make sure all the Minoc bytes have been fixed in the hyperdrive.
Yeah. I don't know anything about that. I get some tech guy to fix that. So yeah.
Well, and make sure they got the Minocs out of the cape closet too. But speaking of spoilers, Kevin, you saw something brand new and exciting just the other day, right?
Brand new? I wouldn't say brand new.
Well, maybe for a whole new generation, it probably is brand new. First time in theaters, I think, in a very long time.
Yeah. So, Kyle, you and I are big G.I. Joe fans. And people that know us know that we are big G.I. Joe fans. And this year is the 35th anniversary of the release of G.I. Joe, the movie. I'm holding up the DVD right here. And most of us saw it on VHS when it first came out, or when it aired on television in maybe more than one part, or lucky enough to saw the whole 2-hour shot of it. Not everyone got to see it in the theaters. I was one of those that did not get to see it in the theaters. Kyle, what about you?
I don't ever remember an actual original theatrical release for G.I. Joe the movie. I remember actually finding it out on a Sunday morning from my parents. It was making its worldwide debut on the WGN network that afternoon. And they're like, hey, did you hear about this G.I. Joe? I'm like, what are you talking about? What G.I. Joe, the movie? And then I saw literally, I went back to my bedroom, turned on my TV, and saw the advertisement for it. But I never... If I remember correctly, it actually never got an initial theatrical release. It came out later in theaters for special events because Hasbro was not real happy with the money that Transformers the movie brought in, and so they put G.I. Joe right straight to television.
All right. By the way, we have Lurker in the chat. Who's Lurker again? I'm trying to remember.
I believe that might be, if I'm remembering correctly. Is that maybe Mr. Senden?
Oh, cool. If it is, yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Sorry. It's been a while since we've done this. So
What's up, man? How's it going? Thanks for joining us there in the chat. Yeah,
I could be wrong. It's, like I said, it's been a while.
So yeah, I went to go see the 35th anniversary of G.I. Joe. It was a Fathom event.
Oh, wait. There you go. There's your answer, Kevin. We apologize, Nathaniel.
Nathaniel, that's right. It's been so long. How are you, Nathaniel? Good to have you back, man. We appreciate you. Yeah, it has been a while. I think Nathaniel likes G.I. Joe. So yeah, I went to go see it.
Well, to answer that question, Kevin, I mean, he did give us that.
Yay, yo, Joe. Awesome.
You are part of the show, Nathaniel. My condolences.
So it was released in theaters for a limited time, and it actually is playing for 2 nights. So today's Friday. It played on Thursday night, last night, and I went to go see that show. But it's playing again this Saturday at 1 p.m. at selective locations. So if you're listening to this live or watching it live and it's not Saturday yet, check it out. And I had to go down and check out and see it on the big screen. But I got to be honest with you, Kyle. I'm not a big fan of the Cobra Law stuff. Okay. And I would have, as fun as this movie is, I love the chuckle scene. You know,
gee, I wonder why.
Shout out to Scott Botten in there. He and I both have the big chuckle missiles that we did with our chuckle costumes. You know, it's a fun movie, but I would have rather have seen on the big screen, like one of those miniseries, like maybe The Mass Device. I would have rather seen all of that on the big screen, or my personal favorite, The Pyramids of Darkness. That would have been pretty cool. By the way, Nathaniel said he was more of a Mask person there than he was a G.I. Joe cartoon.
He gets a thumbs up for me. I own the Mask DVD season 1 collector's edition.
So anyway, I had a lot of fun. It was great. I was kind of hoping they would have like some G.I. Joe posters or swag, but my theater did not have anything like that. So
I got to ask you, Kevin, do you consider G.I. Joe the movie kind of the end of the 80s animation of G.I. Joe? I know they did a couple weird sequel series afterwards, but they weren't real good quality.
Yeah, that came out in 87, thus the 35th anniversary. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you know, it kind of hit its heyday in 85, 86 and stuff like that. Then they came out with some more stuff. I know they came out with some more stuff that I think was fun. But I just wasn't a fan of the Cobra Law and some of the direction that they were going in. You know, the comic book was still rolling at the time. The comic book was still doing great.
Crazy thing, G.I. Joe, the movie and Transformers, the movies have many links, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they were the last roles for 2 iconic actors. Orson Welles is the voice of Unicron in Transformers the movie, and I believe G.I. Joe the movie might have been the last performance of Burgess Meredith before he passed away.
Yeah, I can't confirm that right now, but you're right, it was one of his last. But I wasn't a big fan of Lieutenant Falcon, voiced by Don Johnson. I wish his character was a little bit more likable, and stuff like that. But you know, it was fun just seeing it on the big screen and being part of that. So yeah,
no, I agree with you. I actually watched it maybe about 3 months ago. I have it on where high definition cut that I can watch, and it's that. Oh, I will say this: the opening scene to G.I. Joe the movie is some of the greatest G.I. Joe animation ever. The opening credit sequence.
Yeah, and a lot of Joe's had moments, you know, even Lowlight, which I thought was kind of cool. He had a couple of moments in it and stuff. But I did get a couple things on DVD, by the way. I decided to pick up The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, the exclusive version at Target, which I really enjoyed in the movie theater. So I had to support Cage and the filmmakers, and I decided to buy the Blu-ray.
We'll get to that and buy it, stream it, and see it soon. I've got it. I just haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
And just because it was cheap and I got a digital code, I picked up Infinite as well because I want to rewatch this. So yeah.
Well, at this point, Kevin, I think it's officially time to say, "Yo, Joe," and let's do this thing.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
What have you got, Kevin?
I'm teasing something right now.
Well, I just figured you were teasing all your physical media.
I am holding holding up a stack of DVDs that I've watched several of these. And I'm about to watch a few more before our next episode of Time Warp 1982. And that is our podcast that we have on the Fandom Podcast Network here, where we discuss a year in films a couple of months at a time. And we also talk about all the pop culture and music and stuff. And then we pick a bunch of movies that were released during that time. And 82 we're targeting right now because it's the 40th anniversary of those films. You know, a couple of big ones, of course, like E.T. and a bunch of other ones. But ones that we'll be talking about in the next segment, Kyle, is Atomic Cafe. Okay, all right. I've also got Cat People, Friday the 13th, Part 3, 3D. By the way, there's actual glasses in here because there's a 3D version in this.
Wow.
Victor Victoria with Julie Andrews, James Garner, Robert Preston. Death Trap with Michael Caine and Christopher Reeve. Diner with a huge cast: Guttenberg, Stern, Mickey Rourke, Kevin Bacon, Timothy Daly, Ellen Barkin, and Paul Reiser. Porky's, the first one. Remember Porky's? Yeah. Richard Pryor, live on Sunset Strip. The Sword and the Sorcerer, Kyle. Which
Kevin, wait, I got to just comment on that. One of the coolest but most audacious swords ever used in Hollywood cinema.
I've never seen it, and I haven't. I'm getting ready to watch it shortly. So,
ooh, I'm curious on that.
Tag, the assassination game.
Mm-hmm.
And Penitentiary 2. Why am I talking about this, Kyle? It's the film debut of Mr. T.
I pity the fool who has to watch that.
Also, too, as usual, we are going to be doing our Union Fed Orville weekly and Star Trek Strange New Worlds weekly podcast. We're recording those this weekend as well. Kyle, have you seen the newest episode of the Orville?
That's on my radar for tonight, actually.
Okay. So. It is good. I don't want to spoil anything now because you haven't seen it, but oh my God.
Okay, wait. Kevin, I got to ask real quick, and bear with me, listeners and watchers. Kevin and I have had a certain discussion about the Orville on Union Federation. Do they amend the issue we've been having a little bit?
Yes. And you remember that feeling that you had at the end of episode 3 of season 1?
Yep.
About how you felt that, oh, wow, not only are they tackling an issue that's controversial, but they're making a mark. And yeah, just wait till you see it. It's good.
Good to know.
Last thing, too, just want to tease our good friend Dan Hadley, who is the host of our Doctor Who podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network, Type 40. He and I, and possibly Kyle, if he can make it, tomorrow, we're going to be recording and releasing next week a Couch Potato Theater for the final option. I've got 2 versions here, the Blu-ray and the DVD. Also came out in 1982, but otherwise known outside the United States as Who Dares Wins. It's about the British SAS attempting to foil a terrorist takeover of a U.S. embassy in England. Great special forces film, and this movie means a lot to Dan Hadley, and so we're going to have a discussion about that tomorrow.
Yeah, excited. Hopefully I can sneak into that one. I just got a couple quick shout-outs to, of course, our good buddy, Mr. Adam O'Brien, the Lethal Mullet himself, and all he's doing on the Lethal Mullet channel here.
Yes.
Fandom Podcast Network. And, of course, our newest partnership with all those wonderful people over at the BQN network. Amy Nelson might have something to do with that. The N might be for Nelson. That's all I'm saying. Some great people on there, and they're going to start popping up on our Union Fed show, including possibly one this week when we talk our Strange New Worlds episode. So excited for that. But Kevin, we got a lot of stuff to cover, and since it's funny I should say cover because it's time to do a little bit of covering Kenobi.
Yes. Let's talk some Obi. Let's spoil some stuff too. Let's do that.
Yeah. So because I can here one more time before we start. As we see Kevin getting a drink of blue milk here, but it's all good. So Kevin, let's start with the actual. We don't know if it's a season finale or a series finale yet of Obi-Wan Kenobi, but let's start with that actual episode and what you thought of episode 6 of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Real quick, I did have the blue milk drink at Galaxy's Edge. Really, really good. $8 for a small little cup, though, but still, it was delicious.
Yes.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, the chapter 6. Oh man, very fulfilling for me. I really enjoyed it. I got a lot out of it. I got more out of it than I was expecting, to be honest with you. And there were some great performances in this as well. We'll get into more of the nitty gritty on this, but seeing the fight duel again with Obi and Vader / Anakin, and I got to tell you, little Leia,
Amazing.
fantastic. I just every time I see her, and I'm looking at like her expressions and her acting and the way that she looks at Obi-Wan, the way she talks, just amazing, absolutely amazing. I can't wait to see what else that she does. She's just absolutely Vivian Lyra Blair, just absolutely awesome.
Vivian Lyra Blair, she was channeling Carrie Fisher.
Yes. Great to see Baru and Owen fend off a dark force user, and I'm sure they have experience with sand people and other things, and it was nice to see them give it to her a little bit, even though she was wounded and not 100%. I loved it. It was great. Good to see Bonnie Peace back.
Yeah. Speaking of Bonnie Peace, I want to hit that up just real quick, because there's a great interview that I read with her not too long ago, and she talks about how the Star Wars community and getting to return to Star Wars with this Obi-Wan Kenobi show has really helped her get through all the stuff she went through as part of that cult that she
NXIVM.
The NXIVM cult. And it was really good to hear that, because I got to meet her at Celebration here in Orlando. I think it was Celebration 5, I believe. Here, and actually she gave me and my buddy tickets to her concert that night, and so we went to her concert, and she was just a sweetheart.
I had a chance to meet her at JediCon in Dusseldorf, Germany, back in 2014, I think it was. And it was a great little Star Wars convention they had there. They were having them about every 4 years, and this was right before everything came out about NXIVM, and she was really sweet. I got my picture taken with her, and she did a performance on guitar and sang some songs there too, and she was very sweet.
Yeah. As for my thoughts on the finale of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Kevin, I got to say that the last half of it really lifted it up for me, because there was a few issues I had within this episode, and I'm trying not to nitpick, and I love the episode, don't get me wrong, but there are a few things that kind of I'm still kind of trying to wrap my brain around. I'm hoping maybe you can help me with that a little.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's do it.
So I want to start with the opening, where we see the third sister already on Tatooine, and I'm like, first of all, what ship did she have? Because Vader left her behind impaled by a lightsaber, so I'm thinking she probably wasn't in great shape to be flying, and she came down with all the troops. So what ship did she have to get off of that planet that they were on? Number two, I understand hyperdrive and everything like that, but considering her physical condition, she seemed to get there awful quick, because when we cut away, we're back to where we just left off with episode 5 of Obi-Wan, where they're being chased down by the Star Destroyer. So not that much time had passed, and she had obviously been on Tatooine for at least a little bit trying to hunt down Owen. So I'm the time factor there kind of confused, was kind of throwing me off a little bit. Can you see where I'm coming from there?
Yeah, you're not the only one to mention that, and let me shed some light on that and some perspective. Minutia like that, I used to nitpick, let it bother, but in Star Wars and other sci-fi, I let it slide, because to me, it's not about how they get there. It's more about the moments and the characters and how they're delivering their lines, and if the story's good behind that. I remember when I used to watch 24, and it would take place in Los Angeles, and they would talk about all of the driving on the 101, the 405, and that show was supposed to take place in real time. And I remember we would kind of poke fun at it because, yeah, it's not going to take you that. It's going to take way too long for you to get from point A to point B. All those little things like that, all those technical things, I see a lot of people nitpicking about when it comes to the series and Star Wars in general. And also when it comes to, the CG wasn't this good in this scene or that scene. To me, that's just low-hanging fruit. And I recommend to you, Kyle, and fans in general to don't really let that bug you too much. What matters is when she's there and why she's there and the meaning behind it. Because in Star Wars, they got to get places quick to move the story along. You just got to kind of go with it. Yes, it's easy to mention, like, how can that happen? And she's hurt, and how can she do that? And I just want to comment on her being hurt and how did she survive that? In the flashback, she was impaled by Anakin Skywalker as a child with a lightsaber, and she got impaled by him again. And when you look at it again, that's what I see. I see that she got impaled. And also, too, a lightsaber leaves a cauterizing wound, so there's not really the internal bleeding you get maybe from a blaster. I'm just saying. But I can nitpick injuries. We could always do that. But I think that if Vader really wanted her dead, he would have cut her head off and hurt her more. But I think that there's a certain power trip in leaving someone to a possible mortal wound or not, and then power trip and just walking away. Or it could be very Dr. Evil-y.
Yeah, no.
I'm going to let this machine try to kill you while I walk away and let it happen and not see what happens,
Yeah, no. And again, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to nitpick it here, but I just, there was a few times through the run of Kenobi where something like that happened. And while it didn't take necessarily me out of the show, I know a lot of people who are like, come on, I expect a little bit more cohesion in my writing for some common sense stuff.
Yeah. People will blame the writing right away. And, when it comes to talking about transition from scene to scene to scene. And I think that if you're going to put a series together in a certain amount of time, there's certain shortcuts you do have to take. You need to concentrate on the overall story and not let that stuff bother you.
Yeah, no, and again, it was just something I had a conversation.
You're not alone. A lot of people have brought that up. So just so you know, it's not. I'm not saying that's fault of you or anything like that, but that's a comments that I've noticed.
Yeah. Now, on the positive side, again, young Leia is phenomenal, but the fight scene between Obi-Wan and Vader, and especially the powerfulness of the end of that fight when they're having the conversation. And it's you see Hayden with the makeup on, and
the cracked open helmet. Yeah.
Well, and this is something I want to hit because
the voice going back and forth between.
You just stole my thunder there. That's what I was going to hit on. How powerful was that the voice going back and forth between James Earl Jones and Hayden, and with I think that was incredibly powerful. And then you actually
we need to break that scene down right now, Kyle.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
I mean, no, just in the aspect of, they have this standoff and we see Kenobi more back to his full self. He's become more accepting of situations and finding more peace out of himself thanks to Leia. And I think even this fight with Vader increased that even more. It brought him getting in this fight with Vader, brought Obi-Wan all the way back to where we know Obi-Wan should be at. Again, just the powerfulness of that moment, hearing that Vader has killed Anakin Skywalker. So that also kind of, I think, really plays a little bit of the truth when Obi-Wan tells Luke, yeah, Vader killed your father. Because, I mean, basically that's what Vader said. Vader said he killed Anakin Skywalker. So it's wordplay, but it makes for that powerful moment in Star Wars. And I think actually gives more back to that moment in A New Hope than, because I think some of it had been kind of taken away with some of the other films.
Several defining things happen in that Vader, Obi-Wan, Anakin fight that happens. When that fight starts, it's Obi-Wan still being haunted by the fact that he killed his best friend, or it was his failure, basically, of not helping him friend and not stopping him from turning to the dark side. When you see Obi-Wan finally gather the strength coming out of that pit of rubble, and I saw a lot of people saying, why didn't Vader say, "Who's got the high ground now?" That would have been kind of funny, but I think that would have taken it out of the scene. But when he starts coming back and he starts using the Force to throw all of those rocks and boulders at him, which I thought was fantastic because it was reminiscent of Empire Strikes Back when Vader's using pieces of Cloud City objects to throw at Luke. I thought that was really cool. But what's important about that scene, and he damages his life support system, Vader's life support system, and he cuts open his thing, and he's actually talking to what he sees of his old friend Anakin, and he apologizes to him, says, "I'm really sorry." And that was gut-wrenching because I started to feel sorry for Darth Vader / Anakin. But what happens in that scene is when Vader, and I'm saying Vader at this time, says, "You didn't kill Anakin, I did." What that was is not necessarily forgiving Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan was able to come to peace that it was Anakin that made this choice, and that it was, and this burden is lifted from Obi-Wan, realizing that his friend is telling him, "I became this because I made the choice, not because of what you did to me or you letting me down." And what's really important about that scene is because that is when he truly becomes Darth Vader. And I love the fact that we get the callback to episode 4 on the Death Star, duel between them, when Anakin, now Vader, is looking at Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan says, "Darth," meaning that my Anakin friend is dead, no more. I don't have to carry this burden, and I'm going to let him basically stew in his own failure and his own choices, and this little piece of what used to be a man is now more machine. And what's interesting, a little bit later, when you see him repaired and he's on his throne and he's talking, and he just finished talking to the Emperor, that's when you hear the Darth Vader Imperial March. A lot of fans are wondering, like, why didn't we see that earlier when he's marching towards the rebels and stuff like that? Because he wasn't completely Darth Vader yet. It was Obi-Wan's realization, talking to his old friend. That's when he became Darth Vader.
Yeah. No, those are all excellent points. I do think Obi-Wan kind of hit his full stride, though, a little bit before that, because when he's buried in the rubble and he starts, instead of flashing back to all the horrible things that he'd been seeing of Anakin and everything like that, he starts seeing Luke and Leia and realizing that he's here to protect them. And he's letting that take over his ability, and that he comes back stronger than I think we've ever seen Obi-Wan, to be honest with you, in any of the films or anything like that. But I have one more point I want to bring up, Kevin, because my roommate actually brought up this point, and I'm just curious of your take on it, because my roommate is a little bit more practical in his thinking as he approaches stories and things like that. And obviously we know that that's a great shot of Kevin's finger, by the way.
I got to change my camera there.
Obviously we know for the story to continue, certain things had to happen. But there are places, and I've seen other people comment about this, Vader has already done so much horrific things, even to this point, killing many people, everything along those lines. If you're Obi-Wan and you know your friend is dead, that Vader has killed him, which he's come to that realization now, how do you not finish off Darth Vader in that moment? And again, I'm understanding why. I can see it, because Obi-Wan still has,
because he's gonna continue with more atrocities, basically. Yes.
Yeah, because he's going to continue with more atrocities, and on top of the atrocities he's already done. I understand there's some Jedi code in there. There's some other reasons, but I'm just curious, because I think there's a valid point to that argument a little bit. It was like, so I was just curious of your take on that.
Yeah, I have a theory about that. I think this was Obi-Wan's way of showing mercy one last time. That, it's part of his Jedi way. The thing that the Grand Inquisitor accused Jedi of is that, they'll be weeded out because their compassion is who they are. And, that will leave a mark and leave a trail. And I think that was Obi-Wan's way of saying, look, I'm at peace now of who you are. And this is my way of letting you live with your failure and seeing what choices you will make from here on out. Now, I say that because I think that, there's two things that come away from this, is that when the scene in the original trilogy, and he tells Luke that, your father was killed by Darth Vader, and it makes that go over a little bit better because a certain point of view, and Luke goes, a certain point of view, and I think it was very smart of the writers to use that line to also call back to the Darth line when Obi-Wan, played by Alec Guinness, says Darth instead of Vader or whatever in A New Hope, because that was the last thing he said when he left him, which I thought was great. But I think also maybe there's a part of Obi-Wan that really wanted to try to get to him one last time by giving him mercy, by letting know that this is something that you could still show in the future. But it wasn't until he wasn't able to do that, though. And it wasn't able to happen until Return of the Jedi that his son finally got to him at the last moment.
Yeah. No, I agree with all that. I just think it was an interesting point, and I think there's a valid argument either way.
That's the way I interpret it, and I don't think I'm the only one,
Yeah. So, Kevin, let's just real quick here. Let's talk about Obi-Wan as a whole. How did you feel as the series on a whole?
Okay. Before we do that, that feels like a wrap-up question with Obi-Wan here. I want to hit a couple of more points here.
Okay.
Before we hit that, because that's kind of a wrap-up question. I want to talk about Reva, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah.
So Reva, we don't know exactly how she became an Inquisitor, but she was basically left for dead as a youngling. We see that. Left for dead by Anakin, because Anakin impaled her originally. This was kind of a plan of hers to get some revenge on him. And, whatever her grand plan was, that was part of it. She couldn't go through with killing young Luke, Anakin's son. And I think it was a very powerful scene that she survived and that she couldn't do it. She brings Luke's unconscious body back to the Owen and Beru and Kenobi. And Kenobi was able to say, you show them honor by showing mercy. You can now live out your life and be free. I wanted to get your thoughts on how this character's turn came, because we were kind of sensing there was going to be a redemption for her. There was also the strong possibility that she could have been killed by Vader, and we thought that that's what happened, but she survived that. A lot of criticism about, what people can get impaled by lightsabers and live now. I don't know the science behind it, but the lightsaber is a cauterizing wound, so, that's just my thinking of it, but whatever. But I wanted to get your thoughts on Reva's arc here, and the fact that we may get a season 2, and maybe that will be part of it, because we haven't seen the last of her.
So, okay, with Reva, it took me a while to get this character. I'll be honest.
Do you mean get her like her, or what do you mean?
To really kind of just feel like I was like, okay, this character, it felt like to me, and this isn't anything to do with the actress or anything like. She's a great actress. It just felt to me like this character felt out of place for several. Just her personality, something just felt off, and I couldn't. Yeah, sometimes there's a character in a show or a movie, and it's just like you just can't relate. Feel like you can't relate.
Do you mean like the portrayal like didn't grab you, even though she was a villain? Because some villains we are gravitating towards because of how they're portrayed. You know, whether it's like the villain in the original John Wick film, you're like, oh man, this guy's good, or something like that. You mean something like that?
Yeah, she just felt like a very basic villain. You know, not really fleshed out very well.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
And we all pretty much kind of figured out she was probably one of those younglings. Really kind of right out of the gate. Why would they show that youngling scene otherwise? But when we got to the end of Kenobi, when it's all said and done with this season or finale, whatever this is, I think I know the direction they're going to take Reva, and I'm gonna be kind of curious to see if we see her in other Star Wars series now, because where I see Reva going right now is she could kind of become a live action a new version of a Ventress type character. Right. Where she kind of loses her way because she's no longer Dooku's apprentice, and she's kind of like lost for a while. Then she becomes a bounty hunter. I could see that with Reva, and I could even see it. You know, we see her pop up in maybe The Mandalorian or one of these new Star Wars projects that's going to be coming down the pike as time has passed. We could see her pop up in Ahsoka somehow. I think I'd rather see her show up there in a different spot, and we can kind of then have her just show up again in Kenobi season 2. Let's see her show up in a different spot, so we can, if we're going to see this character again, so we can see how this character has changed and developed.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I saw enough to really kind of get her motive. I just don't know if she was a likable villain at first. When she started to turn, though, that's when you kind of started to feel, when she tried to kill Vader and Vader was just toying with her. But I think, she was just kind of like this, the Grand Inquisitor at first, we know because of Rebels, so we're invested in that character, and the actor that plays him here, I thought he was good as well. Her being a completely new character, we wanted to see more of that. So I see that criticism and that question, but I did still find her captivating, and trying to figure out where they were going to take her character.
I think for me, Kevin, one of the things is, and this is just personal opinion for me, I would have liked to have seen the Inquisitors be a little bit more heavy in this series, be a little bit more of the heavy, be a little bit more portrayed.
You want to see more inquisiting, more. Yeah. No, I see that, but there's only so much you can do because this show is called Obi-Wan, and it was more about Obi-Wan and Anakin and Vader, and I get that, and maybe we'll get more. I would love to see a Vader series with more Inquisitors, hunting, stuff down, and that would be great to bring Anakin back, Hayden Christensen back, and have something like that.
And he's supposed to be in the Ahsoka series, so I'm assuming some kind of flashbacks.
Yeah.
So that leads me to a question we'll have in a little bit. But did you have any other points on Kenobi you wanted to bring up here?
Yeah, I want to bring up a couple of things. First of all, we got Ian McDiarmid back, which I thought was cool in one scene, and we got Qui-Gon Jinn, dude. Qui-Gon Jinn, Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson did that big paycheck for about an hour of work, probably.
I saw something on social media about how he was questioned, or maybe it was on Twitter or something like that, and he's like, he did it. He didn't want anyone else playing him, and he came back as a tribute to George, and it was neat to see him back, and now we get to see them commune and talk, and Go ahead.
I have, because I think it's an important point that we finally see Qui-Gon at the end of this series, because I think it really solidifies that Obi-Wan has found his peace. He's dealt with the ghosts that have haunted him, because now he can see Qui-Gon, and Qui-Gon makes the comment, "I've always been here. You just didn't want to hear me."
And I thought it was a really nice scene that he went to Owen and saying, "You're right. Let Luke be a boy, and you need to raise him." And he was getting ready to leave, and Lars says, "Do you want to meet him?" And I thought that was great. And we got the hello there, which is kind of cool. And I thought that was the right scene to do that there. And more of that can be developed later as well. And I think that seeing these little things throughout this and the rebellion barely staying alive was another neat thing to see. And like I said, the scene at the end with Obi and young Leia, that brought some tears to my eyes. And just, him describing to Leia the attributes that her parents gave her was just amazing.
Yeah, that was very well done. In fact, I really hope they can find a way, let this little girl grow up a little bit and do some kind of young Leia series with her.
Yeah, or jump forward to teenage years with like the rumors of Millie Bobby Brown, a lot of fan casting on that or something where she's in young Senate and stuff like that. I think would be great because young Leia needs to be told because her and Bale and the rest of Alderaan and stuff and getting her ties and her fingers into the rebellion and being kind of undercover about it while she's a young senator, I think would be fantastic because we're going to get the Andor series here. And I think it would be really cool for the Andor series to kind of maybe feed into something with a Leia series because she then kind of can be on the other side of that while Andor's doing like the real dirty stuff. She's having to do the political maneuvering and keep this cover, so to speak,
Well, we already know we're getting 2 seasons of Andor, and I think it's 12. The first season's like 12 episodes, so it's
real quick. I found an Andor promo poster, 2 of them at my local thrift store that I think might have been given out at Star Wars Celebration. Had to pick them up for like $2 a piece. It was great.
There you go. So, Kevin, let's kind of wrap up Kenobi here in the aspect.
Yep.
Okay, so what were your thoughts on the season as a whole, and where do you feel this lands in the importance of the lore of Star Wars?
I thought it was very important to the lore of Star Wars. It was a very important time to cover, and it was a great opportunity to bring Ewan McGregor, who, as fans, whether they were a fan of the prequel series or not, everyone was pretty much unanimous that he was great as a young Obi-Wan. And this is a time where we really needed to see Vader become Vader. Yes, at the end of Revenge of the Sith, he puts on the costume. He puts on the Vader outfit. But this is where we finally get to see both Obi-Wan, Anakin, now Vader, realize where each other stands. And I think that was important. And seeing these young kids play these parts of Luke and Leia, more Leia, of course, was also really, really important to see how they will now see where their destiny eventually goes and that we get to see. I know there was a lot of people that hated this and had issues with it and took every moment to nitpick the crap out of this series. And I'm trying to become a better fan myself. And yes, I can nitpick certain things, but when I look at the overall picture, what this show provided and the performances that provided and seeing Hayden Christensen come back, it really hit a lot of OT feels for me, original trilogy, and really also too some great prequel trilogy stuff because I'm a fan of the prequel trilogy, and this really hit the feels for me, and I really did enjoy it, and I loved every episode for certain reasons, and being a fan of the 501st and being part of the 501st costume series, I love seeing the Imperial officers, and I want to learn more about the Jedi in Amber. That's going to be interesting. I found that fascinating. So yeah, what about you, Kyle? How does this overall series sit with you? And is it important for you? Is it an important part of, because there's certain Star Wars that people don't like and don't revisit. For me, this is must watch. What about you?
So I made no secret of it before this show came out. I really felt this was the most walking the tightrope Star Wars series they've done to this point, where they really didn't have a lot of room to. They could take some risks, but it could go drastically right or it could go drastically wrong. And I came out of this series feeling like they walked the line and they walked it pretty well. Obviously, amazing performances by Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, our young Leia. I don't think they messed with the canon too much, which I think was the biggest risk of this show. Is like, how much are they gonna? Yep. They could do something that really just makes the canon go bonkers. And there's a few things here or there. I think there was some up and down to it as far as the storyline goes for me personally, but I think at the end of the day, it's a great addition to the Star Wars story. Again, Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan is always phenomenal. I think especially the last half of Kenobi really shined. The last 3 episodes more so than the first half. I don't know if I would say it's better than The Mandalorian for me, but it was a very good addition to the Star Wars universe, and I think it fleshed out some lore. And I'll be honest with you, the final fight between Kenobi and Vader in that scene with Anakin, Vader, Kenobi really upped the level of the show for me.
Couple points I want to make as we finish this up with this Obi-Wan discussion is that I know we're podcasters and we like it when we get the weekly stuff and we can talk about it, but I just want to be wary and let people know, be careful about being too critical on each episode as we go forward and saying this is the worst episode thus far, or we're 3 episodes in, or this was the best episode or whatever. Make your opinions, have fun with it, but try to judge the series when it finally finishes as a whole, and then let it kind of sit with you, and then go, you know what, I want to see this again, or maybe it wasn't for me. Yeah.
No, that's a valid point, because I will say that right now, I truly feel this about all of the Disney Plus series, especially. They're not series; they're extended movies. Is what
that's
to me what they are.
Yeah.
And I really think I think we learned that with going back to the Marvel shows with like WandaVision and some of those early ones. And you need to judge this series as a whole. Yes, you can kind of, I like this episode. Maybe there's stuff how this episode handled it. Fine, but don't pass final extreme judgment on it until you've actually watched these series as a whole, because they're designed to tell one arching story. They're not designed to be episodic television.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important.
Good point. Real quick, Nathaniel said definitely had Fisher vibes regarding young Leia. He loved her as well. One last thing I want to mention about Obi-Wan, particularly in this last episode, and I want everyone to listen to me very carefully going forward. From here on out, don't take any strong advice, or don't get your heart set on the last episode's going to be an extended episode. This seems to be coming up every series of Disney Plus that, remember everyone was saying, this Obi-Wan's going to be an hour and a half long, or this episode of this Marvel series is going to be an extended episode. Unless Disney Plus, someone official actually says it, don't believe it. And don't get your heart set on it, because if it's not an extended episode, you're going to be disappointed. I allowed myself to do that. And then as soon as this episode started, I paused it. It's like, it's 50 minutes, meaning that it's only going to be 40 minutes because there's going to be 10 minutes of credits. So from here on out, don't listen to any of those rumors. Don't get your heart set on them. This is a formula that they do. They're keeping them under an hour for whatever reason. So anyway, just want to throw that out there. And Nathaniel says he felt the last episode felt so short for him. They got a lot in it there.
Yeah.
Real quick too, I just want to mention I was at Walmart yesterday, and I got lucky and got 2 figures. I got the Mandalorian Ahsoka Tano.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yes, which I thought was really cool. And also, they had the client figure. These are all both the 6-inch figures. By the way, just so you know, I didn't buy this for the client, Kyle. Can you understand?
Yeah, I know. Well, we all know what you bought it for.
I bought it for the Cantono that it came with.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, Kevin, before we close out our Star Wars conversation, I want to bring this up real quick. I want to talk about the future of Star Wars, because I've had this conversation with several people. how everything seems to be Disney Plus, Disney Plus, Disney Plus. And on the movie side, it seems like every few months we get, oh, this person's getting a movie and this person's getting a Star Wars movie. It's like Oprah Winfrey handing out cars or something like that. Everybody gets a Star Wars movie. Well, to me, there's only 2 movies in Star Wars right now that they're talking about that I feel like there's some legitimacy to. One is the Kevin Feige project, because I really do think they want to get that done to one. Kevin Feige producing Star Wars film. But the other one is the one... Could
he producing the same film that Taika's directing?
Oh, no, he's not doing that, but he's got his own film that he's been working on for a while, with, I think, Favreau on it. But Taika's is the next film. We know that's supposed to be out in 2023. I think we're going to find out a lot more about this at the upcoming D23 in September. And then once he's done with the Thor Love and Thunder media press that he's doing right now. But I want to bring this up, Kevin, because I think this is a very important place where Star Wars is at. Because Taika talks about it's time for new characters and a new story in Star Wars. He wants to get away from anything Skywalker. And I think
he doesn't have a choice.
Well, but he could do something. But he could do something within the...
They killed him off in the sequel trilogy, and
no,
we know what happened. So it's like, what else are you going to tell?
Yeah, but anything that happens within the Skywalker saga. So because Mandalorian happens with that, and it's time to tell new Star Wars stories and really do give us new characters. I've been wanting this for a while. Because I think it's because of how I feel about where we got left off at the end of the sequel trilogy. I want something new. I want something fresh. And I mean, as much as I love Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, and I'm excited about Andor, I want to see the Star Wars universe on movie and television expand to new.
Yeah.
We
want new heroes to root for and stuff like that. So yeah.
It was one of the reasons I love Star Wars Vision so much.
Okay, question for you.
Yeah.
Taika's movie. Looking forward to it, obviously, right?
Yeah.
It's Taika Waititi. We love him. Do you care when it takes place?
I would prefer it to take place after the sequel, after the end of the Skywalker saga. Let's start establishing some new things after that.
After the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, because I know Acolyte is going to take place around the time of the New Republic. That's what they've been saying.
Right.
So give me some stuff after the sequel trilogy. I would rather see Taika do that and give us something, because it's Taika. I don't know how serious that film is going to get per se. Taika might have some fun. And hey to Blair, by the way, good to have you.
What's up, Blair?
Let's get moving forward. Let other people, if they want to go back and do like the Knights of the Old Republic era or something like that, that's fine too. But I want new Star Wars. I want Star Wars we haven't explored before. Give me something fresh.
No, I'm with you. I want to see, maybe some smugglers or something out there. But there has to be. I think there needs to be something with connective tissue to somewhere that lets you know you're in Star Wars. And I think that he'll do that, and I hope that happens. I'm a little concerned, though, honestly, about when it's going to take place. And by the way, I want to real quick mention to Nathaniel. He said the only problem he had with the last episode of Kenobi was how quickly that Reva healed and got to Tatooine. We did address that, and I gave some advice regarding that. And then Blair says, hello there, finally. And he says also agree that it's a big galaxy out there. Nathaniel also says it would be nice to see it would be nice to see a Republic after the fall of the Sith First Order. That would be kind of cool. And then Blair goes on to say here, that's why I love Mando, new stories with connective tissue. So yeah, agreed. That's something that we need to see. New stories, new characters, but set in a time that we know when this takes place, and we know this is happening out there during this time because that's stuff that we know. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting time for Star Wars. We got Ahsoka coming up. We got Andor coming up. I'm excited for all of that. There's other announcements that are coming. We know it. We know. I think at D23 we're going to get a couple new things announced. I am very excited. But Kevin, there are some other things we need to talk about. But first, I think we need to let other people know what else is going on around the Fandom Podcast Network. What do you think?
Let's do it. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. We'd like to continue to feed your ears by inviting you to listen to these other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network.
It starts with our flagship show, Culture Clash, discussing the latest in entertainment pop culture. Bloody Kings, Immortals Take Notice, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theaters, where we celebrate our favorite movies. Time Warp, the Fandom Flashback podcast discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie and TV pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Union Federation, our Star Trek and Orville show. Hair Metal, the 80s and early 90s rock metal podcast. Type 40, our show covering the time-traveling Doctor Who universe with host Dan Hadley. Lethal Mullet, an 80s and 90s action film podcast with host Adam P. O'Brien. Also check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, a Star Wars podcast with hosts Scott, Derek, and Nathan. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast, a deep dive into the final frontier with host Mark Newbold and Adam P. O'Brien. And check out our newest shows, The Fandom Show, our monthly Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube exclusive show about the month's hottest topics in fandom, and the FPN True Believers MCU podcast, discussing the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the related Marvel television and streaming MCU universe, including the connections to the original Marvel comics. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on several platforms. Please subscribe to the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel to receive notifications of new podcast episodes and live events. You can enjoy all of the Fandom Podcast Network audio podcasts on our master feed at fpnet.podbean.com. The Fandom Podcast Network is on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast and iTunes. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. You can also find the Fandom Podcast Network on Instagram at Fandom Podcast Network and on Twitter at FanPod Network. Thank you for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
And we're back. We got a lot of other things to talk about. Kevin, it's been a while. Are your vocal cords ready for it? You've been a little under the weather. It's been
I'm going to pass this time. I'm still trying to keep my voice.
Yeah, we got you on some busy podcasts. So, but we got stuff to talk about. So, without further ado,
let's news.
And Kevin, I have breaking news. Literally breaking. Came out, announced, and it ties in with our top story. Kevin Feige, within the last hour, has announced officially Marvel MCU will have a panel at Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con this year. There was a lot of speculation they weren't. Something big is coming, Mr. Reitzel. And let's talk about that, because it's also one of the things I had as our top Let's News story. Kevin Feige has been dropping some hints. He said that the next big saga for the MCU will be underway soon, and that there have already been several hints dropped to the keen eye in what's been done already. Now, Kevin, I want to talk about this because you had an interesting post on social media, and I actually have some comments about that, talking about how after Endgame, everything in Phase 4 feels a little anticlimactic and not at that level.
You know the guy that sits at the table and says something, he says, change my mind, I stole that meme from a friend of mine, and the guy says all the Marvel movies and series after Endgame feels like side quest after you've already beat the big boss on the game.
So I need to weigh in with my thoughts here. I was going to try to wait till our next episode of True Believers, but I can't hold this in. I have thought this since day one of Phase 4. Phase 4, for the most part, is a transition phase for the MCU. This is to kind of clean the palette after this, the palette cleanser after Endgame. You kind of resetting the table, resetting the board, putting some new pieces on the board, and that is the goal of Phase 4 of the MCU. Because right now the standing is the ending of Phase 4 will be Fantastic Four. That's
okay, hold on,
whatever.
back up. What is Phase 4 in your mind?
Phase 4 is the transition phase. It's transitioning to kind of clear the board off of any of the leftover pieces of Endgame and
it's showing the ramifications of the snap.
Of the snap, kind of cleaning up the ramifications, putting some new chess pieces on the board, getting us kind of some new directions.
Okay, which is what?
Well, I think obviously we have Shang-Chi with the 10 rings. We've got a new Captain America. We've got Doctor Strange taking a more prominent place in the MCU. We've got whatever was set up with the Eternals, because there's some things I think that will have an effect on the MCU.
What was set up by the Eternal?
Well, I
don't mean to be putting you on the spot, Kyle, because he says as we're nearing the end of Phase 4, I'm still trying to figure out what Phase 4 is. And you said it's the palate cleanser, it's the bridge, we're teasing to what's happening in Phase 5, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I kind of feel there really hasn't been a big direction with Phase 4. They're kind of just throwing all this stuff out there that's kind of either cool or not cool. And then we're just going to kind of pick up the pieces of what sticks and then figure out and throw it all into Phase 5. And and here's the big bad for Phase 5.
Well, I think there's some puzzle pieces that have been laid out there. Like I said, we still have the mystery of what the 10 rings are from Shang-Chi.
I'm sorry. I had to put up this quote from Blair. Looking forward to the next 6 Eternals movies.
Didn't you know, Kevin, they're doing a separate movie for each character from Eternals?
I think Blair's feeling my frustration a little bit. Clarify, Blair, if I'm wrong. There's certain things that we've liked about Phase 4, and there's a lot of things and certain things that we haven't liked. But I don't know. Are you fine with the way Phase 4 is going, Kyle?
I think because I think I know, because I believe I know what's coming, and we still haven't got all the pieces of Phase 4 yet.
Is this when you say I know what's coming? It's because of your comic background. You know the direction they're trying to go.
I think they're setting up a lot of pieces to go to I think it was 2015 when this event happened. It was called. No, it might have been even a little later than that. The Secret Wars event. And I think that they are setting up a lot of pieces in place to set that up as the big Phase 5 thing. Because I think in Phase 5, what you will see is Secret Wars will happen. And that's when you're going to start seeing some of these other characters we've been clamoring for. X-Men, excuse me, that's something in my throat. Get incorporated into the MCU.
X-Men, Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four is actually the end of Phase 4. I think Fantastic Four sets the pieces, sets the big reveal of what the big event's going to be. I think.
Okay, question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been satisfied with Phase 4's attempt to get us to Phase 5?
So far, I'm going to say for the most part, yes. I think it's very reminiscent of when the MCU first started, in the aspect of they weren't quite sure, were they going to even make it to Avengers at that point? And so I think I think the aspect of it is, though, Kevin, and I agree with the side quest kind of feeling of it. The Infinity Saga is a completed story, and how do you top Endgame? Endgame is, how do you top the moments in game? Anything afterwards is going to feel like a letdown, just because it is. That's the apex of that amazing story. I think they're doing the right thing, contrary to what Blair says about let it gel, then restart. I think you got to carry on with the momentum. And the biggest thing is if you restart, you're basically telling the story characters all over again. And you've established this. I think there's some very big things happening. We've got Thor: Love and Thunder just in a few short weeks. We have She-Hulk coming. I think we've got Black Panther 2 before the end of this year. We have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which I think is going to be a huge piece in this puzzle that's coming. So I just think right now Phase 4 for me is you've got to have some patience with it. You've got to let it play. We were talking about it with Kenobi. You've got to let this entire phase play out, because I really feel like they knew that they had to kind of do some adjustments as here between phases. I think Phase 4 ends with this really huge thing with Fantastic Four, and then Phase 5 is going to be absolutely huge. And let's not forget, it took, 3 phases to get through the massive story of the Infinity Saga. We're only in the first phase of this new, whatever this new approach is going to be.
Yeah, but the Infinity Saga was the stepping stones to it were much more clear and done in a much more done in a better way. Phase 4 so far for me, it feels like they can't figure out where they want to go. You know, is it multiverse? Is it Kang?
Well, but the issue is Kang and multiverse actually.
Is it these items now? You know, is it like what Shang-Chi has around his wrist? Is it what Miss Marvel has around her wrist? You know, what's with all of this stuff, and how is it going to gel? It's, yes, it would be nice to have a more clear of a big bad, and if that's Kang, I just don't see any connective tissue in everything to get there. I'm trying to be patient, but I'm a little frustrated.
Yeah, well, no, and I understand that, but I think you have to look at it as different type of connective tissue in this aspect, Kevin, where, I agree with what Nathaniel's saying. Phase 4 is a reset phase, and that's what it's designed to be. It's to reset and really hit what phase 5 is going to be. And the big stuff is coming. Again, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is going to be a big key piece. I think this upcoming Secret Invasion series with Samuel L. Jackson is going to be a big piece of the bigger story as well. And in the meantime, I want to give Marvel credit for this too, because even though it might not be hitting with everybody, Kevin, the one thing that they are doing with this phase is they're trying new things. They're trying some things that aren't the Marvel blueprint per se,
right,
whether it's working or not. I give them credit for that. Eternals was different. Obviously, that one kind of backfired on them. WandaVision was something different that did very well. Doctor Strange, it wasn't everybody's cup of tea. It kind of gave you a different feel from an MCU film. Moon Knight, what we're seeing with Miss Marvel right now. Thor: Love and Thunder is going to be more of the craziness of Taika, and She-Hulk is going to be something different than what we've ever seen. So I think it's great. It's Marvel's using this opportunity to be in this reset to try some different things.
I do see that, and I do. I think that was. I think showing different things is important, but it's just been different, and I need to be okay with that, I guess. And be patient with it. And Nathaniel was right. This is like a reset phase. And the one thing I have really enjoyed about it is the ramifications of the blip/snap and how that's changed everything. And I'm glad they haven't swept that under the rug.
I think this is another good point by Nathaniel. I think they have a better idea now of what they are building to than they did at Iron Man 2 then. And I think that's a fair point. Blair here also says, I think we're fighting each other there, Mr. Wright's on the controls.
Oh, no, I didn't do anything.
Okay.
You have to unhide it and then bring it back in.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Very difficult to recapture the thrill that was there leading up to that first Avengers film. Gets a little overwhelming now. I think that's a fair assessment. And of course, Kevin, this is for you. Of course, our good friend, the Lethal Mullet.
The Punisher with Lundgren full proper sequel. Yes, bring back Dolph Lundgren as the Punisher.
So I think we need to have some patience with what they're doing. And Kevin, I'm going to hit this up because it ties into our other piece of news here. Doctor Strange 2 hit Disney Plus, and we now know officially where it falls in the timeline. And it's right before Hawkeye, Moon Knight, and Miss Marvel. So, what do you feel about that placement? I know you weren't a huge Doctor Strange 2 fan, but I think where it falls is actually a good placement for it.
I suppose. So it goes WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, Hawkeye, Moon Knight, Miss Marvel. I guess it fits in there. I'm trying to figure out how the events ramifications of Doctor Strange and the multiverse is going to carry forward. I'm curious to see what they do with that.
Yeah, I think that some of that payoff's we're going to start seeing that. Probably Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. We're going to start seeing that. I think what they've got planned for maybe a little bit in Thor: Love and Thunder too. It's possible.
Right.
Next piece of news, though, Kevin, I want to hit this up because next month we get House of the Dragon with these prequel series to Game of Thrones, but it looks like we're going to get a sequel series, or at least something is in the works because they are now talking about a Jon Snow sequel series for Game of Thrones. Anybody who's acting like they're surprised by this is it's too big of an IP for them not to continue with it. But what I thought was interesting was Emilia Clarke got asked about this, and she had some thoughts. He has told me about it, referring to Kit Harington, and I know it exists. It's happening. It's been created by Kit, and as far as I can understand, so he's in it from the ground up. So what you will be watching, hopefully, if it happens, is certified by Kit Harington. What are your thoughts on this, Kevin? I'm curious.
Remind me of the character's name that is a very good swordsman and
Bronn.
Bronn. As long as he comes back, I'm in. Bronn was my favorite character in the entire Game of Thrones. You know what? As much as it would be interesting to see a sequel or prequel series, which is what we're going to get, I would like to see what happens and the ramifications of what happens. And if Kit Harington's going to come back as his character, I would be curious in seeing that. I'd rather see that more than the prequel series, to be honest with you.
I'll agree with you there, but I am excited for this prequel series because I think it's going to be very intriguing to see the fall of House Targaryen from its power source, power. And I think it's going to have some great effects with the dragons, and I'm a Matt Smith fan anyway, so I'm excited about that. But, Kevin, I got a little something new for us this week, too.
Okay, sure.
It's the Say What news of the week.
Say what?
Exactly.
Say what?
Exactly. This came out, and it has actually been confirmed by not only Joaquin Phoenix, but Todd Phillips, who is the director of The Joker as well. They are working on Joker 2. They are planning Joker 2 to be a musical, and the rumors are that Lady Gaga will be cast to play Harley Quinn in Joker 2. Say what, Kevin?
Say what?
No. Can I just say no to this right now? Please, just no. Stop this before this happens. I don't need a Joker musical.
That's not what I wanted, and that's not what I'm looking forward to. Yeah, no, yeah. I sure. Although, if it actually happens, there's a part of me that will probably see it, just because I want to see. I want to see this train wreck. I'll bring some popcorn. So train wreck's going to happen at the theater at 1:15 p.m. All right.
Okay. Speaking of train wrecks, real quick, it's not in the notes, but I got to ask you this. Considering all the news of late revolving around one Ezra Miller, I'm not going to go into the details of that and stuff. I'm just going to ask you this. Do you think The Flash is actually going to make it to the theaters at this point?
They have so much
worse and worse.
Yeah, because they have so much invested with Michael Keaton being in that. But with today's technology, can they go get the Grant guy from the TV series?
Gustin? Yeah,
and just have him react everything that what's his name did and just release it that way? Can we do that?
Yeah. Yeah. I was just curious what your thoughts were on this, because I honestly can. If it gets much worse, Warner Brothers might not have a choice but to find a way to can this film and go back to the drawing board, because how can you market this movie with him in it if it gets
there's
much worse?
So much that happens from what we've heard with Michael Keaton coming back as Batman. How do you shelve that?
I think you take that footage with Batman and with Michael Keaton as Batman, depending on how much interaction he has with Ezra Miller in the film, keep that footage and then just reshoot with somebody else. I mean, or just say, Michael, we're going to pay you for this film, and in
the chat here, Blair says no Flash for Ezra recast. I say, and Nathaniel says DC has had so much trouble with offset casting choices. They just need to reset the whole DC. They really do. I know they're trying to make as much money as they can with each film, and there's still Wonder Woman 3. They need to start
And look, Aquaman's having this
thing.
Aquaman 2, same issue. Amber Heard is officially out on Aquaman.
Yeah.
They're gonna
Yeah,
recast.
Bruce Campbell's going to play her character, right?
Yeah, that's right. And Blair says just make a new Keaton Batman.
Oh,
Just
God,
do it.
yes.
No. There's one solution to all of this.
Yes, bring him back.
Just do Batman Beyond and have Michael Keaton play that version of Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, an older Batman. That'd be great. Gosh. Yeah,
So,
I love that. Totally.
That's,
Yeah, DC's a mess right now. It's sad.
It is. The whole thing is bad, and I don't see it getting any better anytime soon. If it were me, even if they put out this movie's going to tank, and it's not going to be fair to anybody, any of the other actors. And I just, it's going to be an ugly scene. But Kevin, we had a deep conversation about Kenobi. We talked about a lot of other things going on, but I got to ask you, anything else that you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I just started watching a new series. First of all, if you're not watching The Boys, watch The Boys. It's so good. It's so intense.
Unsee what you see in The Boys. That's my new saying. Whatever you watch in The Boys, you can never unsee it.
This is true. It crosses the line and then steps over it again and again. I love it. But I just started watching a new series on Hulu because, of course, I'm watching The Orville on Hulu. And the newest episode of The Orville is fantastic. Episode 4. Make sure you check it out. New series on Hulu called The Old Man. Highly recommended. I've watched the first 2 episodes. It stars Jeff Bridges and John Lithgow, and it's about a former CIA officer who's living off the grid, finds himself on the run from the people that want to kill him. And Jeff Bridges is fantastic in this. And John Lithgow is playing his old friend and partner from the CIA that's now trying to hunt him. But what's really cool is they have younger actors playing them from years ago that's setting up the relationship in flashbacks. It's also fascinating. And there's a couple of scraps that Jeff Bridges gets into early when these CIA guys are trying to capture him / possibly kill him. And he's brutal. And also I love the fact that they show his age when he's in these scraps, and it's really, really cool. Highly recommend The Old Man.
My recommendation for the week, season 3 of the Umbrella Academy on Netflix just came out.
Yeah, looking good.
Looking good. I love that show. I think they've done a phenomenal job with it. It's gonna be an interesting things. They've got a couple of interesting topics they have to deal with in this season of the Umbrella Academy, but I love that show. Looking forward to watching that. But there's so much out there anymore, Kevin. I need like a week of just like Clockwork Orange with my eyes like I got it just so I can catch up with everything.
For those of you that came in late on the chat, thank you so much, Blair. Thank you so much, Adam. Thank you so much, Nathaniel, and anyone else too. We did give our full spoiler take on this season finale of Obi-Wan. Make sure you go check it out, and of course, this will drop on a podcast too. I assume, Kyle.
Oh yeah. Cool. The audio of this will go out in a podcast format.
Awesome.
As well.
Cool.
We still do podcast things around here, believe it or not. But speaking of podcasts, of course, there's a couple great ways you can find the Fandom Podcast Network. Obviously, if you're watching on our YouTube channel right now or on one of our Facebook or Twitter live streams for this show, thank you so much. But go visit our YouTube page, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and give us a share. We love that. And of course, the master feed, the place where it all began, the mothership, if you will, of the Fandom Podcast Network at fpnet.podbean.com, where you can find our archives, all our great shows, and we're working on we're always trying to do new things to spruce things up around here. And of course, right now we've got our wonderful relationship with the BQN, where you can now find all good things and Galaxy class as well on the Fandom Podcast Network feed. And of course too, there's a couple great ways to support us. You can go to the TeePublic store, get all the gear of the Fandom Podcast Network, much like the Culture Class shirt that Mr. Reitzel is wearing right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sporty. Just go to teepublic.com, search for the Fandom Podcast Network. And of course, you can find us on all the major podcast catchers, including iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Visit our Facebook page, Fandom Podcast Network. We keep you updated on all the things going on in pop culture. Email us directly at Fandom Podcast Network at gmail.com. Kevin is showing off the DVDs that will be discussed in the upcoming recording of Time Warp 1982.
This is for Blair. He loves physical media. I just wanted to show this to him.
yeah, you and your physical media. Follow us on Instagram at Fandom Podcast Network. Follow us on Twitter at FanPod Network. Kevin, where is your final option for social media?
I see what you did there. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Spartan_Phoenix. You can also, of course, find me on Facebook here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And I also want to let you guys know that taking a little break, but Bloody Kings podcast will be returning, as well as the Hair Metal podcast.
We still do that one?
Yeah, I took a little break from it for a while, but it's coming back.
Well, he's a married man now. He has a honeydew list to do too. But I'm thinking Miss Erin Reitzel Gill probably said, "I want some hair metal." I know she's a fan. I have to give the lovely Erin a shout out. I haven't seen her in a while. So.
Yeah, and like we did CPT a few weeks ago for Tough Turf 1985. Make sure you check that out. It's on the Fandom Podcast Network, and we did a YouTube video as well.
Yeah, the first couple of the Fandom Podcast Network, ladies and gentlemen. Right. Of course, you can find me, Kyle, on Twitter at AKyleW and on Instagram at AKyleFandom. Guys, especially right now with the way the things are today, as always, as we believe around here, respect each other, respect each other's fandoms, and respect each other as people. Thank you all for listening, and until next time, enjoy your fandom.
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for checking.